Do you want to know how you can improve your immune system in as little as 3 minutes a day? Well, stick with me because I'm also going to give you a quick bonus one that's really not going to take any extra time, but it's going to massively improve your immune system's function. All right, let's dive in. What is our immune system? Well, our immune system is ultimately the system that helps protect us from invaders. And those invaders can be anything from pathogens to bacteria to viruses to parasites and everything in between. Now, when we think of our immune system, we usually think of our immune system as, it being in our gut. And yes, that's where most of our immune system is. So having a healthy gut is really important. But there's a good portion of our immune system that's found in our lymphatic system. And that's a system we're going to focus on today because when our lymphatic system isn't flowing, isn't draining, isn't doing what it's supposed to, then it's going to put more pressure on our gut. Because remember, our gut, our lymph, and our livers all work together. So if there's a problem with the lymph, it's going to put more pressure on the gut, which is where a good chunk of our immune system resides. So let's start by talking about what can we do to help support lymphatic function or lymphatic drainage. Well, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a minute to a minute 80 to clear our specific 7 lymph nodes. Now, when I say clear, ultimately, we want to just clear the junk that has accumulated in those lymph nodes, because when those lymph nodes are ultimately full of stagnant, gross lymphatic fluid, it's not allowing other fluid to move and to drain. And that causes a big problem. One, that fluid that isn't able to drain isn't getting filtered, which means bacteria, viruses, parasites, pathogens can ultimately sit in there and be undetected by the immune system because it's not moving, it's not getting filtered. The lymph nodes, remember, are ultimately the major filtration systems of the lymphatic system. So if our lymphatic system is meant to drain, remove waste, and detect any infections, we got to make sure that all of that fluid is moving through the lymph nodes in order for that function to actually occur. So when I think of lymph nodes, I always think of security guards at the airport. Before you can walk through and get to your gate, you have to walk through security. And what security is doing is it's ultimately scanning and checking everything to make sure that there's nothing hazardous, there's nothing dangerous, and that everybody and everything that's coming through is safe. That's really what your lymph nodes are doing. It's ultimately scanning and searching that lymphatic fluid, that sewage fluid, that waste fluid that our body has created to make sure that there's nothing dangerous there. And if there is something there, what it does is it recruits part of our white blood cells, so specifically like lymphocytes, to come and take care or address that infection or that invasion. So when our lymph nodes are congested, it doesn't allow the rest of that fluid to actually get scanned and checked. That's not good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 10 seconds. And this is a super abbreviated version, guys, of the specific 7. But I ultimately want to show you how simple this can be, especially in the beginning. Or if you're super duper short on time one day, doing 10 seconds per spot is ideal. Now, if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, don't worry. I have tons of videos where I've actually gone and shown you what to do, so you can go check those out. But stick with me because you want to stay to the end, because you want to be able to implement these 3 things and then you can go learn what the specific 7 is. But ultimately, there's 7 spots on our body that have major lymph node clusters. So it's above our collarbones, it's at the base of our skull, close to our neck. It's on the inside of our shoulders. It's in our armpits. It's between our belly button and our sternum or our breastbone. And it's our groin and behind our knees. So those are the 7 spots. And ultimately what you're going to do is you are going to pump those areas to help clear that lymphatic fluid that might not be draining properly. And when we clear that fluid, what's going to happen is it's going to allow the other fluid below it to start to drain, which is good, because we want to make sure that all of our lymphatic fluid is getting scanned for anything that could be problematic. So taking 10 seconds per spot, always starting and finishing at the termini, is going to take you a total of 80 seconds. Really not that long. Super quick. The second thing that you guys are going to do is you're going to practice diaphragmatic breathing. Now, what the heck does this have to do with anything? Well, we talked about the specific 7, which is ultimately dealing with the lymphatic fluid that's superficial. We have a lot of superficial lymphatic fluid, which is really great because then we can do things like manual lymphatic massage, the lymph node stimulation, dry brushing, gua sha, all of it. That's going to help move the surface level or the lymphatic fluid that is literally just below the surface of our skin. The question then is, what about the deeper lymphatic fluid? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to practice diaphragmatic breathing, otherwise known as belly breathing. Belly breathing is just that. It ultimately means that when you inhale, when you take a big breath in, your tummy comes out and then it comes back in. Why that's important is because when our tummy comes out when we breathe, we're activating our diaphragm. And when we activate our diaphragm, it's doing a couple things. One, the diaphragm is going to ultimately act as it's like the lymphatic pump for the deep lymphatic fluids coming from our organs and even coming from the lymphatic fluid from our legs. Once it gets to the groin, that fluid needs to dive deep and come up the thoracic duct. And the only way that it's going to come up that thoracic duct is by proper breathing. So by practicing belly breathing, we're going to help drain that lymphatic fluid and again, make sure that it's getting scanned by lymph nodes so that if there is anything, our immune system can take care of it. Now, what diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing is going to do too is it's also going to help stimulate the vagus nerve, which is responsible for shifting us and getting us into a parasympathetic state. Most of us are stuck in a sympathetic state. That's our fight and flight. We don't want that. We don't want to be stuck in a fight or flight state. We want to be in a rest, digest, so that we can drain state. That is where our body functions best, and that is honestly where our immune system is going to be able to do its job. If we're stuck in that fight or flight, our immune system is going to have a really hard time at taking care of those infections, addressing whether it's a bacteria, virus, parasite, whatever it may be, because it's more concerned about keeping us alive. That infection isn't number one threat. So by belly breathing, we're going to stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system and we're going to activate that diaphragm. So how are you going to do this? Ultimately, what I'd like you to do is, if you're new to this, laying down makes it so much easier. You don't have to lay down. You can absolutely sit up. But by laying down, you're helping take gravity out of the equation and it's just simpler to implement. And when you get comfortable with it, then you can start to practice it sitting and standing, even walking. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you take the palm of your hand and you're going to place it on your abdomen. So right around your belly button. And with gentle pressure, all you're going to do is you're going to feel your hand move with your inhale. That's the whole point of this. We want our belly to move out and then come and drop in with the exhale. We don't want to be breathing from our shoulders. We want to make sure that it's coming from our belly. All right. What I'd like you to do is do that for 60 seconds. So practice diaphragmatic breathing for 60 seconds. And what that's going to look like is you're going to take a nice inhale through your nose. You want it to be nice and slow. So if you can do it for the count of 4, 5, or 6, then what you're going to do is you can hold it for the same count. So let's stick with 4. So we're going to inhale for 4. We're going to hold that breath for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to exhale for 4. Hold for 4. And then inhale for 4. So we're going to do that for a whole minute. Now, that's ultimately called box breathing. That helps slow everything down. That helps get you more centered, more relaxed, which is ultimately going to help support your drainage pathways, support your drainage system, get you into that relaxed parasympathetic state. Now, you can exhale through your mouth if you want. Exhaling through your mouth, you can control the speed and your breath a little bit better. So if you find that it's too difficult, try exhaling through your mouth. And while you get better at practicing this belly breathing, you can then play with exhaling out your nose. Now here's the one caveat. I do want you inhaling through your nose. Whole bunch of reasons why, but ultimately we want to always be nasal breathers. We want to inhale through our nose, but we can exhale out our mouth if we need. So take 1 minute a day to practice diaphragmatic breathing. All right, so that's the second tip. The third tip is I want you to move your body. So we talked about lymph nodes. We talked about the deep lymphatic fluid with diaphragmatic breathing. How are we going to move the lymphatic fluid in the vessels that's just running below the surface of our skin, of our arms, our abdomen, our legs, our butt? What are we going to do? Well, the way that fluid moves is by us moving it. And the easiest way for us to move it is to physically move our body. So if we were to do, say, like dry brushing or manual lymphatic massage, it's going to take a little bit longer than a minute to do a decent job, and especially full body. So instead, what I'm going to have you do is I want you to move your body for 1 minute, just 1 minute, but I want you to move it with intensity or with intention. So that movement can be anything you want, really, but I want you to make sure that you're moving your whole body. So I don't want you just doing like, I don't know, high knees with your arms down, like you're not moving your arms. We don't want that. So some examples would be, you can do lunges. And while you do your lunges, when you go back, you bring your arms up overhead and then bring them back down. Or you can do jumping jacks, or you can do jump squats and bring your arms like up over your head. You can do like running in the spot with like pumping your arms. You can do really anything you want, but ultimately you just want to move your body for 1 minute. I know that's not a whole lot. It really isn't. You can absolutely do more if you feel inclined, but 1 minute is the goal. Okay, so if we can do each of those things for 1 minute, it's actually going to improve your immune system the whole time, just because you're going to be actually getting that lymphatic fluid to drain. Now, here's the bonus tip. In order for your lymphatic fluid to drain properly, you need to be properly hydrated. So one of the things that I'm going to highly recommend you do is when you drink your water, I want you to take just a pinch, literally like pinch some sea salt, pinch some Celtic salt, pinch some Himalayan salt, pinch some unrefined salt, just not kosher and not iodized table salt, but you're gonna pinch that salt, and that salt that's like stuck between your fingers, you're gonna put that on your tongue, and then you're gonna go and you drink your water. Now, why do we want to do that? Well, the trace minerals in that salt is going to help you better absorb the water you're drinking. So instead of you using water to just like flush you out, run through you, we want to actually absorb that water so that it can ultimately help keep our lymphatic fluid nice and fluid-like versus having to pull water from our lymphatic system to perform other functions. Because when we're dehydrated, that's exactly what our body does. It's going to pull water from other sources. And we don't want it pulling it from our gut, which causes constipation, or our lymphatic system, which causes sluggish, slow, like molasses-like fluid. So staying properly hydrated is going to be super important. And it's also going to help support your immune system. So in order for you to stay nice and healthy all year round, give that lymphatic system a little bit of love with those 3 tips, and feel free to do more than a minute at each of these, but at least do 1 minute. And I know that your immune system is going to function so much better when you implement those plus the bonus. And if you want to know where or what the heck the specific 7 is, you can go and watch the videos right over here. I've done very easy playlists that you can go through and watch them and do it along with me. Thanks for being here, and happy draining.